Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight? We are your favorite sisters from Sip and Read. We are so excited, you guys. We have none other than Miss Joan Vassar to talk about the book Ignite. Baby, we are joined by our brother Kofi Piesie. We love him so much and we are so excited. Kofi, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, tell the people about you.
Okay, I'm Kofi Piesie. I'm a author, a ghostwriter, a writer, by day and night. I'm a podcaster. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Same Tree Different Branch Publishing. I'm a publisher. Um, Man, amongst other things, man, and an avid reader. I want to say an avid reader and a modern day griot. I can't never forget it. I'm a modern day griot.
Thank you for joining. Miss Joan, will you introduce yourself?
I'm Joan Vassar, and I am the author of the Black series. I've been writing since I was 3 years old. No, not three, third grade. and yeah, I like the way all y'all were like, three. No, third grade. And I have written a new book called Ignite, and I'm glad that you guys are taking the time to read it and discuss it. Because I'm not the best about promoting work, and I'm trying to get better at that. I usually put out a book and move on, and then people will come back and say, "I didn't know you put out a damn book. What the hell?" So, so I am here to discuss Ignite and give it the attention it's due. I am in the process of finishing up a book so that I can go back to book two in Ignite and try to and try to finish up my story.
We are too excited about that.
Yes, this story was a roller coaster. I didn't think I was ready to read a book set in Jim Crow era, and I was right. I wasn't ready, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I love the diversity that it showed as you as a writer because everyone knows you for the Black series. Like that is it, right? So when you go in, you're expecting to see Black, you're about to see Elbert, but they're gonna be old, but they're gonna be there. So I love that it showed that you can do all things. And this was definitely different from what we've seen of you. Kofi, how did you feel about the book?
Um, I love the book. I like I said, like you just said, like I only know Jonah for the Black series. I'm new. I'm a historical fiction, traditional, cultural, anthropology, and so forth reader, right? So, um, you know, dabbling into historical fiction, as I mentioned on the video, I did it. I'm not gonna mention the author name. She's a real renowned author, but I read one of her historical fictions, and I wish it really wasn't impressed. It was okay. And then when y'all invited me to experience Jonah's writing with her historical fiction, um, she made, like I said, she made it easy. So I'm attached to the other characters, right? So me going into a new project that has nothing to do with the Black series and those thousands of characters in that that book, that book, I had some reservations about it because I'm like, I don't know, I'm attached to these characters. I'm in love with these characters. I'm in love with the story, plots, the twist. Um, but just getting into it, right off the rip, man. It like I said, it captivated me and made me want to continue to listen. I wasn't able to do my annotations. I'm gonna try to do some of them while we talking about it now because what I normally do, listen to the audio and go back and reread the book and do annotations. But I got pulled in. What was that Sunday? You asked me, Jonah.
Right, right.
Last Sunday. So yes, but I enjoyed the book. I definitely and love the book. And I'll talk some more about some of the things in particular, like I loved about the book, especially one of, and we can talk about that a little bit later because I want to kind of go back and talk about this individual that Cohen talked about a few times, just for people who may not know who this character is and what he did in the Jim Crow era, 1925, and what he did establishing certain things from 1940 all the way up until Cohen seen him, and my opinion on why I inspired Cohen of this individual. I'm talking about Marcus Garvey, individual who I patterned myself afterwards. So, but we'll talk about him a little bit later. But you know, I'm rambling, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole thing.
And what's funny for me, Miss Joan, is when I was going into this, I wasn't expecting to see Black in everybody, but I was expecting it to feel like Black, to give me that same like experience.
Right.
And it's nothing like that. Like, and I don't know what about me, because every book I have read from you, it's never felt the same. Like, it's always had that intelligent writing and just that hold you in a chokehold, but it never feels the same. So I don't know why I went in expecting that, and it was nothing like that.
Wow, you guys are great. I appreciate you.
Ms. Joan, this is all you.
Hi everybody, thank y'all for joining. People are gonna keep joining in. If y'all have questions, y'all want to talk, like, please feel free. Y'all can ask Kofi questions, us, Miss Joan. We want it to be as, like, you know, interactive as possible, so please join in. Miss Joan, can you please take us through the process of writing this story?
Well, in writing this story, believe it or not, I called myself stepping away from the Black series to give myself a break. And so when I got in 1925, I realized that I probably should have not picked 1925 at all. And but I was already in the story, and but I was trying to give myself a break from the Black series while still addressing what life would be like after slavery, right? As we're at the turn of the century. And essentially, what I wrote about is where we are in this century, in the last century, right? Because it's 2024. And so I was attempting to just kind of get an understanding of life and how it would be, you know, and it ended up being a heavy right, where I did a lot of thinking. And my grandmother was born 1917. My other one was born 1923. My grandfather was born 1914. So I'm thinking about the people in my life and what they experienced living in the South, Mississippi, and what have you. And so this was a near and dear project. But what got it off the ground, I'm always about the moment that the character says, you know what, I'm gonna do what's necessary to survive because everyone around me is doing that. And my goal is not to hurt or bother anyone, but it is to maintain life. And so this was my goal. And also I just love Black men. So writing about them is fun. I find them beautiful. I find them sexual and all of those things. And so I like writing about the plight of Black men, because it directly pertains to us. And I like writing for Black women. Yeah.
I do feel like you do that well.
Child. How did these three characters come to you?
I had only, so what happened was I had written the Anthony Unshackled, and then these characters came to me. And what happened was I had decided that I was going to write this book before the fort, but things happened and then the fort needed to be written right away. So I had these like 8,000 words that I had set aside for a full like year and a half. And so when I came back to it, I was kind of chomping at the bit to try to see if I can tell a kind of a Bonnie and Clyde story for us, and just to see if that would work. and if I could achieve it, because you're constantly trying to challenge yourself as a writer. You're always trying to offer something more to the people. But believe it or not, as I'm writing and challenging myself, y'all are witnessing me learn. It's not a definite formula. I'm giving this a shot to see what would happen for me, you know? And I thank you guys for witnessing it, for audiencing me, and for allowing me to entertain you.
We were thoroughly entertained.
Wow. So the love triangle, was that always a part of the story, or did that kind of develop as the writing started?
So I think that it was always a love triangle, but I like to write emotional books, right? And I often wonder if monogamy is a real thing. And so that is the reason why there's always some hint of it. I constantly what is the word? I constantly think about uh, I constantly think about relationship. I constantly think about the different types of relationship and what is actually more natural. And so I always find myself in some type of a threesome in my writing, because in my real life, I'm too chicken for that shit. I wish I wasn't.
I was so about to ask, like, is this reflecting reality?
Right, because I've heard your experience.
I've heard it too.
Right. In my young life, I was in love with two guys that were cousins. And so I was acting out, and I was, and so yeah. And they weren't seeing it as a poly thing, because as a teenager, I don't think I've ever heard that word.
Right.
But I kept saying, I'm gonna not see him no more than I'm seeing him. I'm not gonna see the other one no more than I'm seeing him. And old Joan had her moments. Yeah.
I love it.
Kofi, questions?
Oh no, I mean not right now. I mean with the poly thing, I mean I know a lot of us don't understand it, so we frowned upon it when we're talking about one man, or I mean we're a man and two women, but there's also two men and a woman. But I know we don't
Right.
understand those types of things, and we think that a relationship, which is one part of it, is physical, another part is it's business wise. So a lot of times people don't understand um, those dynamics in the relationships, and we frowned upon it. But those are cultural experiences that has been practiced for centuries. I mean, when we talk about
Absolutely.
our ancestors practiced those things, and even those who are into religion. When I say religion, into Christianity, whatever form of Christianity it is. Um, King Solomon had 300. What he had 400 wives and 3,000 concubines. There was things that was taught. Even we get to Moses. All those things. So this is not a new thing. And even
No, it's not.
they explained it in a way, but us looking at it from a Western perspective and a Western worldview, we don't quite understand it, and we don't quite understand relationships in general. That's why a lot of relationships fail, even if it's one man and one woman. So, but yeah, that's just my little take on it. Because I don't want you to
Right.
look bad, Jonah, and they be like, "Oh, she was dating." This is something. I got you, Jonah. I got you.
Thank you.
So
Kofi, I don't do nothing else. I promise I love you, Kofi. I promise.
Maybe he won't judge me too bad, because I've written a polyamorous a book, and I'm finishing up the last chapter now.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. I did I had a few years ago I got invited to a cultural event, and they wanted me to speak about these things from an African perspective. So
Right.
I got a whole lecture that talks about it, a whole lot of research back in some of the things that I talked about in that lecture. So I can't wait to read it.
And for me, I love reading about like unconventional relationships, thruples, open relationships, like all that. I love to read about it and like educate. So maybe that is like another layer of why I love your stories, because they're always such complex relationships, and not just between lovers, between siblings, between friends, between enemies. Like even enemies, you give such a complex story.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And like, I'm a very character driven reader.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You give the character such a rich history and complexity, and just it's mind-blowing, right? So even down to with Ignite, as the story is progressing, like these character growth is just beyond. And then that twist at the end, I said, hot damn, Miss Joan did it again. That keep the readers guessing is something that you have mastered.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, you guys. If you guys have any questions and if you guys want to talk, we want it to be interactive. So, go ahead and jump in if you have anything you want to say.
And if you don't want to speak over anyone, just raise your hand and we can get to your question or your thought next. But this is an open space. Let's have fun and get into it, because baby. And as we're on it, Miss Joan, I did not want to like Miss Josie. I did not. And by the end of the story, if that was my girl.
I don't know if y'all noticed, but I'm wearing my hair like Miss Josie. I was wondering where this came from. It was Miss Josie inspired. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Did you always want Truck's family to meet Miss Josie the way that they did?
I'm gonna be honest with you. If y'all haven't been to JD Jackson's page, when I came back to it and he agreed to read it, I thought, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk with him, and I am going to think about it. And so with these characters, they were literally written around his voice. So this was specific to him. And so that kind of helped me kind of gauge the characters. And there were moments when thinking about his talent, then that changed what I was thinking about originally, because originally it was flat. When I knew it was definitely going straight to Audible, it gave me a different kind of a feel and a kind of thought process. So that's why.
Interesting.
Okay. Because I mean, that's not how I want to meet my man's family.
No, absolutely, absolutely not. But I'm gonna be honest with you. As I was going into the story, a lot of times, and here's something that Kofi will appreciate. Um, as a writer, when I write, I don't engage in writer's block, and here's why. Because before I sit down to the computer, I am already, and I thought I was a pantser, and I can be that, but I'm a person who tries to work the story out all the way in my head. I don't take notes, right? Because with taking notes, sometimes if you're thinking about writing, and for me, and every writer is not the same, sometimes taking notes for me made me feel satisfied. And so the actual story writing didn't happen because I've taken all of these notes. So what I do is kind of wander around in a daydream, right? So when I sit to the computer, I'm already behind my brain. So I'm not staring at the cursor wondering what to write next. It's, can I keep up with everything I plotted out in my head?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I'm kind of the opposite. I love to take notes, but I don't let I don't let my notes satisfy me or dictate me. Once I sit down at the computer, and I have a lot of, because I have a lot of stuff going on in my mind. That's why I had to write
Right.
something down. So the notes be like a starter point for me. So once I
Right.
get to the laptop and I actually look at what I got, okay, now I can go further because it's in
Right.
the back, man. So a lot of times it's just a spark. It's just a spark the things that I already had so I won't forget it. So okay, this is what I wanted to talk about, blase, blase, this and that. So when I get to the computer, now once I got an ideal in a sense, and then I can just, what
Right.
we call free write, so free
Right.
write. So I'll go to writing and boom, 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 whatever's in my head, I start to, it started to develop on the Microsoft Word.
Paper. Yeah.
Mm.
And it's so what you saying, like I'm like my brain won't let me take notes. And that's wonderful because I think I could probably enhance if I took notes, but I don't. Even with the Black series, there's nothing to inherit. I don't have notes.
Okay,
I
well,
just I freehand and try to get it I try to get it written. And um for my for myself, I think so in writing these characters, they're dancing around in my head. So I could see Josie laid out. I could see her. And some stuff wasn't on the page on purpose to give the readers some time to think about what they're seeing. I could have
Right.
offered what she did, but I also try to determine what is worth being on the page and what is worth leaving the reader to think about.
so I got a question. So, all right, so your books, and this is something that I would like everybody to kind of take away from your books, like it is really like historical driven, especially the Black series, and even things in here that you mentioned here is heavily driven,
Right,
and you mentioned that 1925, and you kind of wish you didn't write it. You during that era of the Jim Crow era, which started around maybe like 1876,
right, right.
1880, went all the way up into the 1865, right? But in that space of time, um, you're writing, you take notes? I ain't gonna ask this question yet because I want to come back to that question because I want people to think when you mention something about writing in that area. I want to highlight a few things that was actually going on prior to 1825.
Mhm.
During the Jim Crow era, there was a lot of things that was going on that a lot of people may not be familiar with. When we mention the
Right.
Jim Crow era, we know how we was treated during the Jim Crow era and so forth. But you writing historical fictions, you don't even take notes when you are or
No,
take notes and organize when you're writing
no,
these things. Wow, that's
no.
a that's a
No,
that's
and I'm gonna
mhm,
tell you why I don't.
mhm.
Because in my um young adult life, and I would say when I say young adult, I'm in my 50s, so I'm talking 20, 30, and even early 40s. I did a lot of interviewing people that were from that time. So these are just actual conversations that held and I'll give you an example of one, Kofi. When I was 18, and I'm gonna go back a little bit. When I was 18, I was in high school in Manhattan, and my girlfriend and I. You know how teenagers are, young girls. We just want to buy clothes, right? And so my mother wasn't rich, and neither were her parents, and so we got jobs, and so we have the budget to get a shirt, budget to get new sneakers. We're in high school. We're trying to be, with the hip crowd, that type of thing. So she and I landed these jobs in Manhattan. And when I landed these jobs, and we both landed these jobs, and what they were home attendants, right? And so I was 18, she was 18. And so we were old enough to work because it was our last year of high school. And what we did is we had jobs that took us to Harlem. And the agency that we worked at was in Washington Heights, and so they would send you to the homes around it of elderly people. and you would stay the day. Well, we were in high school, so we couldn't do that during the week. So my job with the woman that I was with, I got there at 8 in the morning on a Saturday, and I stayed all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and I lived with her on the weekend, and I left for school from her house. She lived on like 135th Avenue in Harlem, right?
Mhm.
And so I was excited to get this job. And like you know how sometimes when you're young, you don't appreciate something,
Mhm.
and then you get older and you look back and it has a value that you couldn't appreciate at the time. So I end up with this woman who was born in 1893.
Wow.
So it is 1985 going into 1986. And so I'm staying with her on the weekend, and she's not senile. And she's heading toward 100, but it's 1985. So she's got about 6 years. So I can't appreciate at 18 that I'm hanging with somebody that was born in the 1800s. But
Right.
I'm there. And she was the kindest woman. And what I found in particular that was something else is that she was sharp as a tack,
Mhm.
right? And so when I got there on Saturday, I had to get her up, and she took a bath every day, took a shower every day. She had a little chair in there. And so she got in the shower, and you know how sometimes elderly people have a certain smell? She didn't have that, right? And it was just weird. She was from Barbados, and it was weird having conversation with her. So this is what stuck with me, right? She told me that in 1923, her first husband died of appendicitis.
Mm.
And then she told me that her second husband had just died 10 years before I met her, right? So I might have been 8, because I'm 18 at this point.
Mhm.
She goes on to tell me that she had, with her first husband, 5 sons.
Wow.
With her second husband, she had 4 sons and a daughter, right?
Yeah.
So what I found interesting, the whole family was very loving. They all had a key to her house, right? So I could be sitting in the living room with her, and her granddaughter would walk in, maybe 3 hours later. They were always coming back and forth to check on her. She was the matriarch, right? And he begins to tell this story of having like 16 or 17 brothers and sisters. And I'm thinking, your mother had all of these kids? And she said, no. My father had 2 wives. And I remember telling her, oh, I wouldn't put up with that. And she laughed. And she said, this is how it was done. And my 2 mothers, they worked together to take care of the kids. And my father took care of all of us, the 2 women and all of the kids. Well, I'm 18, so I can't appreciate this. I'm thinking to myself, what are you telling me? So the first time that I had polyamory explained to me, it was from a woman who was born in 1893.
Wow.
Right.
And she actually experienced it.
And that it wasn't a bad thing. She goes on to tell her story that she was in the house. The young man came to deliver ice, and her father went to get the coin to pay for the ice, right? And when she was standing in the parlor of her house, and her back was turned. So the young man that bought the ice, he stepped in behind her and kissed her on the back of her neck. her father walked in right at that moment. So she's trying to explain to her father, I don't know why he did this. But her father didn't believe her. So she was forced to marry him.
Wow.
What?
So this is Barbados, right? But now she's in Harlem. My time with her was enriched. From that time on, anytime I found people that were older than me, senior citizen like, I was always asking about that time. So a lot of my notes, even Corn working at an ice house is a tribute to her.
Mhm.
Because why would I think about this? The ice falls right out of my refrigerator,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I do study the time, the clothes. I get pictures of things, and those pictures, they help me figure out what I'm doing. But no, I don't make notes, right? The notes end up being in the book, and whatever I do learn, I try to separate what is worth putting in the book and what is something that I just know. Like I told you before, uh, I was telling the another young lady, you end up, when you do research, you end up learning a lot of stuff, but all of it can't go in the book. I mean,
Mm.
I know now that elephants have a 6 foot dick. I didn't know that before.
I didn't know it either until
I didn't know
now.
that either.
And I
It,
appreciate
it, it's research. It's research. It's just falling in the research hole. Um, and so these are the things that drive me. But no, I don't have notes for these things. I do a lot of research, and I do a lot of article reading, and I do. And the reason why I do article reading and not book reading is because I'm trying to get the information quickly and absorbed and figure out the points of this. And then the research, the articles might drive me to look at more stuff, to look at more stuff, to look at more stuff. So some days it's all day that I don't get to write because I'm constantly. But no, I don't write things down. I don't keep a file. As I'm when I One of the things that helps me is when I'm writing a book, I pick a time and I stick to it so that I'm not all over the place.
Mhm.
Um, Other tricks that I do that help me is I pick a place with certain topography, and then I tell you stories from that piece of land, that piece of topography, and you may feel like this is a different place, but all it is that the years have changed. So the things that are in that spot are not the same, but this is the same area. So for instance, Love in Africa and book 4 and the Black series take place in the same place. You don't know that because because it's like 100 years apart,
Right.
right?
Kofi, we
So
gotta do that one
it's
next.
162 years apart, right? So where Milford Church and Black and them are staying on the East River, that is now Ravenswood, which is where Raheem in Africa live. And Monique live, but you don't realize that. So you think I've taken you someplace else. So I do try to figure out the best way to be familiar so that when I'm describing it to you, you could smell the air. You
Mhm.
could, you could feel the heat. You could feel cold when so I try to knock out some of those things with being familiar. So a lot of the times when I write, it's in places that I grew up. And if I pick it from different times, you can't tell it's the same place. I tell you it's the same place because I'm not trying to hide that. But the reason why I'm also doing that too is because as time changes, things change even if they stay the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
That
You
is
taught me a few new little tricks myself. I appreciate the sharing.
So
okay.
about Truck and
Listen,
Josie, to answer your question, so I said all of that to say, yes, I did think she was going to meet her family. She might not have wanted to meet his family like that, but yeah.
Truck is so fun, and Corn is so fun. I like that you made it hard, right? Because it couldn't have been about the way they looked. It really just came down to the man that they were.
Mhm.
Right.
And And I loved it. Like, Truck was such a good man. Like, he was so good to his family, he was good to his friends. Like, I felt like the only time we ever really saw Truck kind of falter on his friendship is when he met Josie, because he wanted her first.
Right, right.
And I don't want to take it all the way to the end, but in my heart, Corn gave up on her. He knew he wasn't good enough. He couldn't have her. Yeah, I say, if they don't got nothing else, they got audacity, okay?
Ain't that
I was
true?
like, damn, Corn, like that. Oh my gosh. Okay, before I take it all the way to the left, because y'all know I'll go straight to the back to focus on Truck. Was it hard for you to write less characters? Because this is the least amount of characters I feel like I've ever read a book by you with.
So what happens with me, that might be, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but in my mind, when I go to the store, um, I see the person online behind me. I see the cashier. Sometimes the man from the meat market will come out while I'm trying to buy some chicken. I run into an old lady, and so my world is kind of panoramic. And so when I'm writing, I kind of write panoramic. So yeah, the shoe shine boy, and then the banker, and then the teller, and then the people on the trolley. And so yeah, I I try to I try to mimic what my real day is like. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but y'all sure be counting out my characters. And I'd be like, dang, I'm really trying to give like less characters, but I do need somebody who's gonna open up the store. And I do need some because my brain is just kind of on that. So, you know, I think sometimes even with the lower page number, it this was like, it's Josie, it's the banker, it's Titus, it's Hollis, it's the speakeasy, it's the people who are buying the liquor, the people who are selling the stuff, and then you got the people who are frying the meat, and now Truck is talking to these. So it's, in my mind, there's still a lot of characters, even though it was less, you know and I really do try, but when you're writing about black life is such a community, even if we don't think so, that it's really hard to pin it down to just, two or three people. I think I've done this in the polyamorous book, but I think it's because of the situation with the character. But then people start coming to the house, so you still start seeing all of these other people. But um I think, for me, I think the experience is better, and you know what characters you need to hold on to. But I think sometimes I would like to make it less characters, but my brain sees it in such detail that sometimes it eludes me to try to lower the my body count in terms of characters.
Well,
I
I
don't.
love it. I feel like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, y'all.
Oh no, 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 no. They was the same thing. I mean, I was just gonna say, I know when we do our thing, I always try to count the characters, and I don't be trying to give no a rough time about a lot of these characters. It just like for me, if I'm going to put anybody in my orbit around me, I want to know I want to know who they are. So
Right.
like, so when I'm taking my notes, I'm trying to get every character down, and even when I'm listening to the audio, I'll come back and I'll go to my book and I'll highlight that character, uh, and I'll highlight a different color, and then I'll pin it if you describe them, and then when you come back, so I'm just trying to get to know everybody that you speak about. I want to know who they are. You know what I'm saying? Because now I have the book in my personal space, and that's just like anybody in my personal space. Well, who is that? Well, what do you do? You know what I'm saying? So I be wanting to know, you know what I'm saying? So each but I appreciate it. And even with this book here, it still had a lot of characters in it. It was less than what you normally, and I'm just giving a guess estimated. I'm gonna say you in this book, you had at least almost 50 characters in this book. You know what I'm saying? They might not have but a spot here and a spot there, but they made their presence. No, in the book.
Agreed.
And I like that because it makes us, not only does it has so much going on. Like, we can remember, okay, Miss Josie had on a green dress when she was talking to the auntie, but Josie never left the house. But the auntie went over here. And me and Nikki will literally sit up at night and have sister debates about your story. And think about what you wanted it to be.
Yes.
And
Sarita always thinks she's right.
I'm always right. Even if you don't even know, because the man was shining the shoes. I'm like, Nikki, he got a wife and 7 kids. And Nikki be like, no, because he's working too hard. So you even
and I'm like, he's just a good man, Sarita.
No, he working because he got all them damn kids. But you make it so that it doesn't always have to be about truck and corn, that we can really wonder about why Titus don't got no family. What's wrong with where he is? What's going on here?
Right.
You really make it that way. Like, I'm not saying it's not to compare or anything else, but a lot of romance or fiction is always based around these 2 people, right? And we only know about these 2 people, and maybe they're 2 friends because the next story is about the friends. The way you do it, you think the next story is about to be about corn, but shit could be about
getting John's story.
It could be about John.
Okay,
the next story, I believe, if I can pin it down, I believe it's going to be about Titus, and because remember, he's the person at the end that's coming in and saying, "Hey, this is what look what I got." And Truck is saying,
"Get him in trouble." That's all he's gonna do. Get him in there. Get them all in trouble. They already. That's something I just didn't. I did not like that. I did not like that. Y'all got they made off with $70-some thousand. So I went and I said, well, let me go see what the value of $70,000 were in 1925. So it was over $1 million and some dollars. So them splitting in 5 ways, they still was up. You got $200-some thousand. You got $200,000-some between each of you. In 1925, you up, you rich. Right. Even Trump told them, man, we got money, man, for our kids or for the next generation. You talking about robbing another bank, and we ain't even spending the money we got yet, and we ain't gonna be able to spend it in our lifetime. I told them, fool, get away from me. We good. But you come back here with some else. I didn't particularly appreciate that, and I didn't appreciate Hollis, because I'm saying, okay, Hollis he stopped him from doing something, you know what I'm saying, that he was gonna regret, because we know Truck, and that's something I like about Truck. Truck did whatever he had to do, you know what I'm saying, for his family, to make sure that his family hold on to their legacy, which is their land, right? So, I appreciate how Hollis came in, because what's name was finna tear, excuse my French, y'all, but he was finna tear the banker ass up. He was finna take it up and go to jail, either go to jail or get himself killed. So I appreciate him interjecting himself in the 2 and saving Truck from himself from making a mistake. But then you get along, and then now you telling him about goddamn going somewhere and making some money, but y'all might not make it back. These people are known, when you selling this bootleg, they known for robbing you, and then your cousin come in, and now y'all talking about not only putting yourself in danger for this money for the bootleg, now you talking about robbing a darn bank. But I know, Truck was just so fascinated with, I gotta get this, I got to show this banker. I got to show him, blase this, that, and the third. So, he went along with it. But I'm like, damn, you just met these fools, and they already done talked you into doing some craziness that you wouldn't even normally do. But I understood, he at that time too, him trying to do whatever it is that he got to do to make sure that his family good. The same way with Josephine, Joseph.
Right.
And she did some things that I think, Sarita, said she didn't like him at the end. she did whatever she had to do. Because one thing I got out of this story was survival. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Survival. So she did things in order for her to survive. So when you go back and forth and start talking about the story, you know, and how she had a family, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oscar and his family, and that
Right.
got taken away from her, right? All right.
Right.
So she, and from that instance, she had to go into such, certain things happening in life. So she had to go into survival mode. So she did things in order for her to survive because she had nobody else. So she did some things that I may agree with if my daughter had did those types of things, but she did things in order to survive. The same, every last one of those main characters, and even not only the main characters, but the people that Truck and Coin was introduced, Hollis and Titus. You know what I'm saying? They did things in order to survive at that particular time. So these were things in order for us to get a leg up. There's things that we probably gonna have to do that might shame our family. Those are things that we may have to do that might put us in danger, put our life in danger, or even put
Right.
our family lives in danger. So, but yeah.
I mean, you gotta eat. Not like Josie was a true.
She was a survivor.
She knew what she had to do. She knew what she had. She knew what she looked like. And at the end of the day, her heart was good. It was just she had a hard life. And when you saw hard shit happen to you, especially in that time, her and Corn find out was really in love with her. And for her, Corn was just a means to an end.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting to me of like how she did more than the men did. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they were all
right.
But she was the one that would have had to mess with that man. She was the one the man could have turned around and beat her to death. Like so much had to happen. Josie really was down. When she told him, let me be your right hand, homegirl was serious. When he said, me and Josie finna handle this.
Yeah.
See, I'm wearing her hair. I'm trying to embody Josie.
She was smart.
You do so well, Miss Joan, is write a perfect flawed character. Like they're perfect. Like Truck was perfect, but he was flawed. Like, and it was his being green, if you will. And then like just that
Truck,
rotation.
I hate that color green.
But just his growth throughout, like he evolved. But at the same time, it was within him. He just had to unleash the beast, if you will. Like you write perfect men and women, but they're flawed. Like they're real people. And
I tried. Yeah, I tried.
No, he didn't. Kept who he was.
He did, boss up, but he never changed the sweet nature that he had. It was just,
he was so sick when he thought someone else was gonna be punished for their crime. Like, Miss Joan, you do
wait. He thought he was so sick when what?
He thought that someone else might get
like another colored man would have to deal
because of what they did.
Right.
This is even before Caldwell lost his damned mind.
And I like that you showed that just because you start out one way don't mean you have to end that way, because he started following, and even though he, had some ideas and whatnot, and they took his ideas, but then they realized Truck was a true thinker, and they had no problem switching around and trying to listen to him. Yes, Titus didn't like it, but Titus never challenged him. Like it was just the way that they fell in line was so perfect. Nobody really was trying to trip on Josie. He was like, no, we're going to split this 5 ways because there's 5 of us. And the way that you made it so realistic, it wasn't like today he woke up, my arm is broken, now I'm about to do this. It was literally like, y'all should have listened to me in the first damn place. And I like that he showed these strong alpha men, if you will, knowing that sometimes you got to be led.
Right. And I think too, when you look at the movie Godfather, if ever there was characterization building, Mario Puzo did it with the way Al Pacino's character starts out green and then becomes the Godfather. And so the moment that Truck is laying in the bed and he says, close the door. And he says, I want us to plot this out while I'm down with my arm. Like, let's not waste any time because my arm is down. Let's go ahead and get the things necessary together that we can move on and do this bank robbery. Well, at this point, I'm hoping that the reader is he's transitioning from one of the boys to the leader.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I definitely noticed that.
And for me, that was a fun experience because I feel like in the other stories we have read, you know who the leader is.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's like it's very clear. Black,
Mhm.
you open up, you know he's the leader.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna get into that because Kofi hasn't read yet. You know who the leader is.
We have to figure out what our next book is. We got to get together.
Even in Love After, when certain things start moving and shaking, you know, you see who's taking control, and it's not a new experience for anyone. In this story, it was fun seeing him be like, okay, I have to use my power. Like
Right.
he knew what was going on in his head, but he had to use his power. And it was such an experience going through that with him. So many characters grew and changed over the course of this book.
Right.
It was like, and it was just so natural and effortless, and it made sense. You didn't just be like, okay, Josie's about to overcome all this stuff and be the girl everyone wants her to be just for the sake of it. You got to see Truck rub her smooth. She was real rough around the edges.
Right.
So you got to see how she became smooth and softer with him. Like the transition of all of the characters, it was just top tier every time.
Mm-hmm. Even
well, and I'm gonna tell you something. If ever there was a disappointment, it was Kofi having 2 hours left and trying to dodge the 2 hours.
But I said, you gonna make me mad. I said, I'm gonna get mad. I'm gonna get mad. Something gonna happen at the end. I ain't gonna get so
I that's how these books have you. You know,
Kofi, let me tell you something. Kofi, he sent me a message. I got 2 hours left. I said, oh, okay. So then when he did the video, I was so like thankful that he did the video about the book. And then I went back and looked at it again, and I said, he came on, he said, okay, we're going to talk about Joan Vassar briefly. And I couldn't do nothing but smile because he looked worn out. He looked like we at the end of this book, we made it. I didn't trust her. And I had to send him a message. What you waiting for? Okay? I'm telling you. And so, but one of my friends said to me, when you get to the end of this book, it's like it's boom, 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 boom. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's not exciting enough. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I gotta handle this, I gotta handle this. And I have to leave some things unaddressed because the reader is not supposed to walk away from this just feeling safe. And so when Truck says to him, you know, we don't know who they told. All Titus could say is no, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, Kofi. When I get to a book, I don't care how much I like it. If it tells me that this character is about to piss me the fuck off, I'm gonna take a break.
Listen, it was only 2 hours. Then the next day, I said, "So did you finish?" I got an hour to go.
I'm with you, Kofi. Listen, and it's not like series, Kofi. There was other books. We had more to go. After this, if we get upset, we stuck. I'm with you, Kofi.
That's probably one of the biggest differences between reading a fiction and nonfiction book. Like with a fiction book, it's very clean cut, beginning, end. Mm-hmm. With nonfiction, you don't know what the author is going to do. You don't know if it's going to end on a cliffhanger. If the foolishness is about to kick in, you can sense it,
but you don't know.
And then sometimes when you're like, okay, you suck it up and you read, and it's like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And there's other times when you know you're dealing with Joan Vassar, and you got prepared for anything.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. When I got his messages, I was so moved. And you know, you want to entertain, you love that. And I was happy that he was finished in time and all of that. And so when I saw his video, I couldn't stop cheesing. The video is just wonderful, talking about the book and everything. But when I leaned in, I said, my friend is tired. He is tired of me and my foolishness at the end of this book. If you go back and view that video, he starts off with just a deep breath. I said, that's just wrong. I'm just trying to entertain, you know? But again, I'm in the house and I'm pacing. Okay, I gotta wrap this up. I gotta look at this. Who am I gonna? Okay, somebody gotta. Okay, I'm gonna off him. And so you're just in your mind the whole time, and it's jumping in your mind, and you're hoping that it's jumping on the page when you get it as well. And so when he told me that he had not listened to the last hour, it was a compliment, right? Because I could feel his emotion when he said, "No, I ain't finished," But in my mind, I'm not trying to traumatize you, but I am trying to surprise you, to outthink you as the reader, because the goal is to entertain you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
I'm with you, Kofi. I didn't think my man was gonna make it to Africa. I said, "How dare she? He deserves this." Well, for me, I was like, "We in trouble because no one died in the prologue." Yeah. That scares me. What foolishness is she on this time? Yes, and
Y'all are wrong for that. But by the end of the book, they all killed somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And they had not started out like that. Because what could Jim Crow beget? You know what I'm saying? What could a situation like that beget? I mean, the man is literally trying to take his home.
Yep.
I just knew foolishness. No one died in the prologue. Oh, okay. She on that, but she on that.
Yeah, and going back to like 1925, telling his story during the Jim Crow. I appreciated being in that area, even if you said it was tough. And the reason why I'm saying it is like with corn, like I really found the appreciation for corn. I really understood corn. Um, and him being in New York, and you mentioned Harlem, right? And him encountering Marcus Garvey, right? Him encountering Marcus Garvey at that time. That kind of changed his perspective in a way. Him meeting Marcus or seeing Marcus Garvey and hearing Marcus Garvey, and it seemed like that influenced him where he wanted to go to Liberia. Marcus Garvey, had the Back to Africa movement. And Marcus Garvey started the UNIA in 1940 in Jamaica, and then in 1917 he came to the United States, and and the UNIA, he formed the UNIA here, and it became big where he wanted to unify all Black people and advance Black people, economically, educational wise as well, because he was also influenced by Booker T. Booker T with the Tuskegee Institution. He was supposed to come here in 1915. So, but in even talking about Booker T, even during that period, there was things that was going on well for us. So I hope people kind of went back doing a story. Okay, who was Marcus Garvey? Marcus Garvey had the UNIA had grocery stores. He wanted to create a institution like Booker T. Wilson. So they had grocery stores. He had the Black Star line, and other.
But wasn't it W.E.B. Du Bois that tried to get Booker T to stop fooling with him?
Yes, yeah, they kind of had a few W.E. Du Bois, and they ended up. I say W.E. Du Bois got jealous of Marcus Garvey. You know what I'm saying?
So. That's what it seemed like.
Yeah, so that's what I say, but Marcus Garvey and the UNIA during that period of Jim Crow, they acquired all these things. This man had ships where, with their grocery stores and other things that they had, where they was able to ship products and different stuff, but he wanted to try to go back to Africa. He think this was a place where this is our ancestral lineage. This is a place that we can go back and be treated fairly. What I'm saying? But also, while we here, these are things that we can do in unifying and advancing Black people of color. And they did
right from where they are.
Right,
and
where they
are. You know what? And I had to. So when I decided to put him in the book, it wasn't to give him a big part, but it was to also give the reader, because I knew that the reader was going to think Corn was lazy. And so it was to give the reader some thought process as to what's happening in Corn's mind, right? Now he's doing all these things to start a business, to deliver ice, and everything that's happening is being pushed to the side. And what he's doing, he's living in the Jim Crow North. He thinks there's nowhere to run from this, right? And that's how the butcher ended up getting done.
Yeah.
My son called me and my son said, when he got to the part about the butcher, my son said, and all I could see is you making peanut butter and jelly when I'm little and asking me you want grape or strawberry. And you around here offering people, you know? And he said, I cannot reconcile this person who is my mother. And he said, I could feel the dude's arm pop when he swung the pipe. I said, listen, I'm just trying to make a living. Stop judging people. It's my son.
Yeah.
And but ultimately, and notice how he went back and he just never brought it up. It wasn't that Buck would have ever spoken about it, but he wasn't proud of it. Like he had succumbed to this thing. And then he was broken. So I lived in Georgia when I had started writing this book, and then moved here where I live now in in North Carolina. And what I found to be interesting is I am just perusing Marcus Garvey's life, and there it is, damn plain as day that he ends up going to jail for mail fraud for $25. And you've usurped just enough power to discredit this man. You never cared about keeping him there. You only cared about discrediting him. What was interesting is when I was writing this book and plotting it out in my head, Marcus Garvey died in 2021, 2022. Yeah, Marcus Garvey Jr. died. He was 90, right? And he died with the disappointment that he could not get Obama to posthumously clear his father's name.
Yeah, that man was so powerful, man. Like he did so much, and you have to understand the UNIA, right? That he formed in Jamaica. His whole purpose was in 1914. His whole purpose was to come to the United States on a tour and I emulate his life because he was a writer. A lot of people don't talk about him being a writer. So when he traveled from the age of 14, this guy went to so many different places at a young age, and he worked for newspaper places. He wrote articles when he got to England, American Times and Oriental. Even you and I even had their own newspaper, the American Negro newspaper.
Right.
So this man did so much in that period of time. That's why I hope the readers go back and look at who he was, because there were
that
black
was my
people,
hope.
right?
That was my hope.
Right. And
that's why I put him in.
Right. Yeah. In 1925, there was no internet, there was no cell phones. So the UNIA had in 1919, he had 2 million, I hate to say followers, but he had 2 million members in the UNIA in the 1920s. During that area of Corn, he had 4 million members in the UNIA worldwide. And this was without the internet and cell phone. So we had people who united at that time that did certain things, but we did have people who still was marginalized, who were being taken advantage of. So, but we did. So I liked it that the way that even though you were sharing that, okay, you had a banker and this is not just him. This was just this. You can see this everywhere, that they was taking advantage of people who was illiterate, especially who was illiterate. Trump was illiterate. He couldn't read, right? So you seen Josephine or Josie that was reading the newspaper to him all the time, right? Informing him of what was going on in the world. So him being taken advantage of, but even with him being taken advantage of and things were going on where they was they struggling and they was, you know, barely making it, and so forth. You did have other people in that area of Black people who were actually thriving and had ownership. The same thing that Corn only wanted to have his own. That's all Corn wanted.
And what appeared as laziness was him not wanting to work someone else's land, and never owning it while wasting his life cultivating it. And so I had to make him go to Liberia, but I have to add a side note that I married a man whose father was a follower of Garvey and picked up and went to Liberia, took all his kids, and they lived there. And so it was an experience living with someone who lived abroad as a Black person and understood Black life that was different from just being here. So that I have a lot of intelligent Black people in my circle, and you know, a lot of them tell me they feel interviewed all the time, especially the older people. And so this was important. His father has passed away, but great conversation between me and my father-in-law about just life, just being Black, growing up in Harlem. And so this was important. I grew up in Queens, went to high school in Manhattan, and did not eat. Let me tell you something. This is so when Kofi is talking about notes, let me tell you something. I'm sitting on the couch one day. Miss Hicks is gone because she was the woman that I lived with, a wonderful lady, right? Wonderful family. I was at her house one day when her granddaughter's granddaughter stopped by. And so all of that to be said, right? I'm sitting on the couch one day and they're advertising a new show called Sister Wives. I'm saying to myself, because I still had not thought about that particular part of the conversation until they advertised that. And this is where, and I'm in my late 30s now, and this is where you begin to reflect, as because what happens as a writer, as you go along, no experience is your own. You're looking at everything and it will translate to something, right? And so that is what started the triangles in my head in writing, and the difficulty and the complexity of being in love, of monogamy, of polygamy, of polyamory, all of these things. And so when I'm telling this story, I'm I'm thinking of all of these things. But again, and the first time that it was explained to me that there are such things, and I don't want to say threesomes, because threesomes is more of a sex act. We're not talking about menage a trois. We're talking about the dynamics of three people trying to figure out being in love. And so I had that again explained to me by a woman born 1893. And it wasn't crassly said. She simply said, my father took care of us all. There were two women and there were 17 of us. And I said, well, that wouldn't be. She said, it was kind of a man's world. And so it would be. But again, there was no fighting, no arguing. We just took care that we were just taken care of. And that was it. And so she didn't get in depth. She didn't say whether her father was a mean or this. She just said this is the way it was. So now I get with other Black people and say this is a European thing. It is not. It is a human thing, right? And then we are people who practice it also based on tribalism and other things, right? And so here I am having, because again, the more the world changes, the more it stays the same. So here I am telling her I wouldn't put up with that. And now they got a damn TV show called Sister Wives. So she's ahead of the game telling me something that now it's in my brain. And the some of the just hypocrisies that of things that have gone on in this country. And so when I'm writing about them, it's probably why I'm not famous as an artist, because, I write about things that some people don't want to read. But again, I write for the entertainment of Black people, and I have to be satisfied with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had me entertained
thoroughly. Because I can't relate. I
even
see your name and I'm like, bye.
yeah, I can't. I even love the relationship between the uncle because you know he raised Truck like that's his son. He loves him, and he don't think Josie is right for him. The man called the thing an alley cat. Okay, I was like, no, he did not call that woman an alley cat. But just the fact of him being a, he still he sees her hurting him, and he don't want that for him. You're better than this. You don't need that. And even him being like, okay, well, we can leave. And the uncle being like, that's not what we want. Like that happens so much in families, right? But a lot of times, sometimes our pride comes in and we're like, okay, well, take your little alley cat on and you leave. They didn't let themselves get in the way of still needing and wanting to be a part of their nephew's life. So
right.
I love how you did that. Every family don't handle every situation the same.
Yeah.
Some of us
But that scene that you're talking about, it was a hard one to write, but the primary goal of that scene was for Truck to extend his masculinity, to say we're not going to be sitting around talking about Josie. We're not, even with Corn. I don't want whatever you know. I want it from her. So we're not going to talk about it. This is a man move because he's made the decision to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's decided to be is unapologetic about it.
Mm-hmm. Uncle Alvin, he just wanted the best for Truck. I mean, that and just someone, that's just being a parent. Especially when
right.
you see someone hanging around somebody that that's always in trouble. With my son, I'm glad my son don't do a lot of hanging out. But at one point in time, when he was hanging, trying to go to the skating rink because he's young, and these particular boys he was hanging with, I knew what these boys were doing, and I wanted to protect my son. I didn't want him around these guys. I explained to him why I didn't want him around him, what they was doing, and Uncle Alvin was doing the same thing. He referred
right.
to, she can't be no good if she hanging around Cohen. He kind of knew what Cohen was kind of
right,
into. So she ain't no, so he was just trying to protect him and protect his feelings and protect him from being hurt down the line. But that wasn't the case neither. I mean, and Josie, I mean, she wanted to be loved. I don't know exactly how Oscar treated her, but just from listening and looking at something earlier, as I was browsing through the book, I mean, it didn't seem like he treated her bad neither. I mean, he had that family structure, and I think once somebody showed her something different and how to be loved, because I know she got used to actually defending, fending for herself, even when she was with Oscar,
right.
But Truck made it where, hey, look, I love you. I want to not only, be your lover, but I want to be your protector. I want to be your provider, right? I want to be your confidant. So I think once, he exposed all those things to her, I mean, that was just something she was looking for. So that changed her, uh, uh, um, her mentality in a way of, I got to be able to survive for myself. So I got to do this, that, and the third, so, that's just my opinion on.
And you know what? And to double down on what you're saying, what is important to recognize between Josie and Truck is that while he's offering all of these things and he attempts to control the situation, she explains that she can't not be herself because they're together. Mm-hmm. This is who I am. And so adding her to the group was to respect that. He began to see what Corn had saw about her. That's how she became part of the group, right? And when they said, so how's this going to be? Well, we got 5 men, right? So we're going to break it down 5 ways, right? But again, they wouldn't have even gotten in the bank if it wouldn't have been for her, right?
She was really a big part. And I'm with you, Kofi, because I tell my daughter all the time, that little bitch ain't your friend. I'll tell all the time. She don't listen, but I'll tell. So I see what you're saying about Uncle Alvin. Josie was a badass. Ooh, Josie. Can y'all tell that I look like Miss Josie? My hair looks like Miss Josie. I'm trying to embody her. Y'all don't see me. I ain't like truck. I'm spending that money.
Well, you know what, too? I had to laugh because even I was overwhelmed when they were counting the money. I said, well, damn, maybe I should lower the amount. But the key was to have more to show you the nervousness of it. I bet y'all was too through when the FBI showed up.
Oh, I was. I know I was. I said, God damn, niggas got my book.
And I was like, I'm glad that man didn't switch them boards because he said it was gonna look different. I said, you so fucking smart, Corn. Truck. Oh my gosh, I was shocked. I was so shocked. But I like how it made sense. They were just checking for any colors that actually had a note with them. Like everything made sense. You didn't do nothing that didn't make no sense. Like everything had a reason. There was a place. We had this punk ass driver. What was his name, Nikki?
Wallace.
Fuck you, bitch. I wanted to like you, Wallace. Fuck you.
But you know what?
Everything.
So you know what? This is the year that J. Edgar Hoover comes to power. He becomes the director. He's 29 years old.
Yeah.
He's 29 years old. He becomes the director of the FBI. And now we're already on a bank robbing spree. And now we got these rogue niggas. This can't be. I got an answer to that. If Black people have started robbing the bank, right? So they come out, they question everybody, and the first thing Josie did was sit to the table over top the money and put the auntie on it too, right? And they looking demure, right? But let's run it back to when they at the bank, and at the last minute he said, "Nah, Caldwell told us don't kill him."
Yes, I was like,
and that's the setup. That's the plan was simple. That's why I told you, chapter 21. The plan was simple. The execution complicated.
Yes, I love when he was like, "Is you talking about when he didn't give me my receipt? He's trying to say I didn't pay for that." I was like, "That's right, Truck, tell his ass." They did so good. Was they on some buggery? Because was they gonna leave together, him and Wallace? Was Caldwell and Wallace on some buggery?
They were not. They were not on some buggery. They were just trying to split the loot. Y'all got to behave now. Come on.
Curious because I say, how he gonna trust this man really gonna split this money with him? I knew he didn't drive, but I was curious. Nikki didn't think so.
Funny.
But you know what? But what's so interested is they were going to get the banker on Friday, but the banker said, "Nah, I'm gonna come by you on Thursday." Yeah.
Corn came through for that ass though. I didn't expect Corn. I was like, "Go on, Corn. This ain't Corn first body though. He been doing it."
What was interesting to me when the FBI came and Chuck was like going crazy in his head, but keeping it cool on the outside, I was like, dang, Chuck, you was raised right. Because my mama had us trained.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, to just, you don't talk. So the way he was so clever with trying to get information without showing his hands.
Right.
I was so proud of him because he was a good boy. Like, circumstances really pushed him to something that he did not want to do.
Right.
But he handled it like effortlessly.
Right.
When he sat down and told Uncle, "Let's not do this. This you're the reason we in this mess."
I feel like that was the final like push to his metamorphosis for me, because it's easy to conquer an enemy, right? But this is his father figure. He loves this man like a father. And I felt like that was the final, like, I am a man. And I'll be a man and do my own thing.
Right. And you know what I did? What I do is I do save pictures. And one of the pictures, there was a person protesting during this time in 1920, and his sign said, "I'm a man. I am a man." But you know what, as we're plotting it out, now we're getting ready to leave and go back to North Carolina, when Uncle Alvin tells him, listen, I think I did something wrong. I told him that you were in North Carolina and that I couldn't sell. So the uncle is realizing all the mistakes he made.
Yeah.
And he's at this point going to concede to let the younger man take over, right? And it was fun to talk about truck working on vehicles because this is a time in the world where there's cars, trolley, and still horses and horse and buggy still on the road. And he's learning how to make a nickel off the new machines running the roads, right? And so when he ends up heading back into Atlanta to pick up a newspaper and some flour and a stick of butter, that kind of thing, he done found out the whole damn Atlanta was shut down because they didn't kill this man. So, and then Josie figures out the man lived 3 days. So did he live long enough to be able to tell them? We don't know, right?
Even her
So
saying
now they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
yes.
Yeah, I thought he had did a good job in Austin, and then later on I got she done talking about that she reading the newspaper and dang, he done lived 3 more days. Oh Lord.
They should get this
He done
time.
told
Yeah,
him.
I know that's right.
Tell him.
Kill this man next time.
But I like I said, the story for me, like I said, it was just like your writing. And now that you're talking more, it just make me understand your writing and how you uh, develop your world and these characters in this in these stories, and how you always and that's just keep that's gonna keep being outstanding in the back of my mind is you always outthink the reader. Like when we think we got something pinned down and we know what's going to happen, you do something else different. I'd be like, oh wow, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely appreciate it, man. I really do appreciate this story, y'all. I'm finna have I gotta go. I couldn't be on here but like an hour and a half. I got like a
That's fine.
We appreciate you for joining.
so but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I hope we just keep these things up. Joan, I'm gonna have to go back and buy some more of your stuff before I get ready to go off here. I'm gonna do something once we finish the next
The
series.
fort. The fort.
I'm going to include this book. I'm gonna write an article. I got a blog site called Kofi Piesie Written Compositions too, where I write articles and blogs and stuff. I don't do it a whole lot because I be working on other people's books and I be working on my own projects as well as my research project. But I'm gonna do a big old. It's called My Jonah Experience. So
Oh
it's
wow.
so it's gonna be talking about my experience of reading all your books, but it's also y'all gonna be in it as well, Sarita and Nikki, because y'all played a big part in it. So y'all will be in that as well. So I think y'all all appreciate that once we get through with that. And I'm gonna publish it so everybody can be able to see, you know what I'm saying, see the work as well. And I'm gonna start promoting your stuff some more because that's key. Marketing, promoting is key, and I want everybody to have that same Joan Vassar experience that I have when it comes to historical fiction or people on the end or leery of reading historical fiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of yours now. So I'm gonna push you to the max if I can. So people gonna get
I
you out.
appreciate that. And you know what? I'm a fan of you. I can't wait for us to do the fort because I'm ready to get back to it. And so whenever you pick a date, I'm gonna be there front and center.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. Well, all right, y'all. Everybody on here, man, y'all have a good night, and I'll be chatting with y'all pretty soon.
Okay.
We'll see you later.
Good night.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Miss Jones, something that I really loved that you did is, if y'all don't know, Josie wasn't my favorite character in the beginning. I really disliked her. But as the story progressed, I loved how she was far more than what that met the surface.
But even
that
more
you
than
gave
her
her
Chuck was like, man, she is learning.
Not even just being able to cook and sew and hold a house. Like, I'm from the South. I know how to keep a house. But being able to read and just all the layers to her, it's like, if that ain't a Black woman.
Right. Right. Girl, you done put your whole foot in that statement. You done preached the word today. That is the truth. And because we're multifaceted and we're not credited for how multifaceted we are and how resilient we are and what we bring to the table and just the natural resources of being us. And so that was a key thing. And when she's explaining to Truck, I'm just tired of us being put down while Black men are not being taken to task for not being able to perform themselves. Like, somebody got to give us some credit.
That part. That is it. That part. And said it. I mean, I felt like every Black woman stood up, like, and let the church say amen.
Amen.
I was like,
amen. 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 Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't a discredit of him, but it was a discredit of the whole thing, that some of our experiences, and I think this is key. I was looking at a TikTok the other day, and the guy was saying something about going 60-40 and this, you know how it is. And so I had to laugh, and girl, this woman stitched in, and she said, I'm sad because whenever we talk about um, the accepting less and not and shaming us for expecting a partner that can meet us where we are and us meet them where they are, it's always the Black woman having to compromise down to nothing. And so I think this, and I had said this to Alex, and the young lady in the TikTok said, it's unfortunate because a lot of what we're dealing with, even in Black relationships that are circling the drain about the things you see on social media and a lot of the disrespect that Black women get in social media, and also from other Black men, from Black men. And I said to myself, and I had said this to a friend, and this young lady came and said, like, she stole the thought right from like, snatched it right out of my brain. Here we are in a system that is not uh, geared toward Black family, Black life. It's not. And so we're dealing with Black men who feel less than and are constantly talking about what Black women don't bring to the table, all on social media. And we know that real Black men are not on social media doing this, right? And so you can never speak in absolutes, but you can say this, that Black women are also victimized by the victimization of Black men on so many levels. And here's why. Because we live in a country that systemically is trying to keep the Black man from opportunity. And so, in essence, what has happened is we have given Black women more opportunity in the workplace to continuously unseat the Black man in his community. And so the resentment from Black men should be pointed toward white men who are perpetuating this system of racism that is also systemically hurting us in a community, right? And so instead of them dealing with the white man and what has been done to us, they're looking to us to say this is your fault because you're exceeding, you're succeeding in your life and in your job. But Black women in this country are, and especially in the last few years, have been the most educated people and still the least paid. Okay. So with that being said, I'll just give you a blind statistic. The numbers are never absolute. But for every 100 Black men, 85 of them are locked up. So for the 15 left, 5 are dead. For the 10 left, 5 don't date Black women. And for the last 5, 3 of them are gay. So how can you wring commitment from 2 men for every man there's 16 women? Because 800,000 or more Black men are locked up.
It's crazy.
So you're looking, when you see articles like with Eartha Kitt and they're asking her why she's not married, she said, Black men don't want us. This is the same discussion. You hear Diane Carroll talk about how she thought she was going to end up with Cindy Poitier, but he ended up marrying a white woman. Right? So this is a systemic thing. And so while they're on the news, on social media, talking about what Black women need to get used to, they're not addressing white America, who is setting us apart and winning at it. And winning at it. Because every day that a Black woman can find 3 jobs and a Black man can't find one, your Black man resents you, but you're not in control. You're just playing the game.
Right.
That is truly what don't hate the player, hate the game means.
That's deep.
And so Josie, the reason why I allowed that to be an issue, if you go back and look at some of the interviews with Diane Carroll, with Ella Fitzgerald, with what's her name, Eartha Kitt, you'll see that they're all saying the same thing that y'all are saying, that we're all saying even right now, because it's been a problem since slavery ended. And so what Josie is saying is, I can be your housewife, but let's if we're going to do this thing, you have to actually see me for who I am. Some of what your uncle is saying is true, but your uncle can't count my loyalty. You can.
Yeah, and she showed that she gonna ride with him.
Yeah.
But it's so, the way that you did it, it's in all the stories that I've read from you, it shows like stuff that we can go to right now, things that we can literally say are still happening, or even thinking that you can learn from those mistakes of what was written. Like, I understand that it is nonfiction or that it's fiction, but the shit sound pretty fucking like real to me. Okay, like real fucking real. Like what she said, I felt like was so profound. I even tried to remember the actual words in the last video, but it's like I couldn't quote it because I didn't have the right voice. Okay, I couldn't find the echo of how amazing it was.
Right,
but it
right.
was so true, and it almost made you feel good, right? To hear somebody say it, and then to be able to say it to somebody that actually heard you.
Right, because he heard her, and that's why he said to Hollis, "It's 5 men. We're gonna break it down 5 ways."
And I don't think they ever looked at her any other way. Like they just went with the punches, did what they had to do, saw her value. And I just felt like it was so perfect. Like when she was like, I'm gonna handle this, and it was so Black woman, like everything. She went and just shot this man and then came home and cleaned up and then fried you a whole fucking chicken. Okay, and then didn't leave with your friend to have an easy life.
Right. And one of the things I think we need to just note there is that he knew Korn was going to ask. Him and Korn discussed it. And that's why he left, to give her an opportunity to leave without having to look him in the face. The shock value was that when he got home, she was still there.
Ate apple pie and everything.
Right. But he was saying, I'm going to be a farmer. No matter how much money we have, I'm going to be a farmer. I'm going to be on this land, and I'm going to be taking care of the old man who don't even like you. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to choose going abroad and living different. And she said, I come on in here so we can read. Me and your auntie about to read this newspaper. And that was important. She had found home in him.
And I feel like that's what she always wanted.
That's it. Just to truly be loved. And I felt like you
Right.
you gave that. And it was like not just her, but every woman to truly be appreciated and to be able to be your true authentic self. Imagine me being with this man, loving him to life, and I don't say y'all never hear me say bitch again. Could you imagine? Right. Why can't I be me? I like that he let her be her.
Yes. And I feel like that was so perfect because I feel like Oscar truly loved her. But there's even a point where she's like, but he didn't listen. He didn't heed my warnings. He didn't take me.
And because he didn't take her serious, let me tell you, he could have caused her death too.
Yes.
The death of her mother, of his mother and her, could have just as easily happened. He did the father and the brother, and left them two standing. They're lucky he opted to kill himself.
Yes, like it so profound. So to have this man who not only loves you unconditionally, but sees you, sees your worth, sees your value,
and hears you.
And hears you. That man heard her. Like, and you think Chuck is dense, right? You think he too busy being jealous of Corn. He ain't go shit. When she said what she said, that man went outside, did his little huffing and puffing, but he came back and was like, we got another man. Like, it was perfect. I don't think you could have given me anything more in this story. And I didn't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. I didn't think this was going to do nothing for me. I said, what the hell this little book going to do? What is that going to do for me? What? You did something for me. I said, she can't tell me everything I need to know in this one story. And you let us, you let us think around and see what could it be.
You let us think on it.
We still have other things, but we feel complete with what you've given us. Like we still may think like, oh, okay, you know what? That man that was working with John done told, we still are little pieces, but we're content with this. Like
John is going to be one of my new bank robbers because Corn is not coming back.
Corn ain't coming back. John fine ass with that voice. You might as well let John seduce one of them women tailors. They got women with that voice right there. John could have it.
I liked him.
And his wife could sew them little shirts and put them with some masks. Oh, John.
I liked him.
John took that money and helped did what needed to be done. Okay.
Right.
John is about
the reason why they picked him is because he was already duplicitous because he had the banker buried with his luggage on his property.
I said,
I liked him.
I did
because immediately when the thing fell on Chuck, I was like, no, Dr. Short, here, we're not ready. And then he got John, and I was like, okay, Real.
You did a good job, like a really, really good job. Even going right back to, I'm sorry, I keep going all around, but going back to when Truck had to tell the men, my uncle told him I was there, and he had that kind of weight on his shoulders, and it was like he would have done it anyway. It's change nothing. Like they were never dealing in your fault, mine, you should have did this. It wasn't about that. Like they were all men trying to get ahead. Like they were, they knew they weren't the enemy.
It's a true partnership.
Yes, they saw clear their enemy and they knew what they had to do, and it wasn't turn on each other. So I
agree. And in the end, they took the alarm and put it in the car and left it with with Wallace. And made it look like the banker killed him and was whatchamacallit and walked off, right? Which is reasonable, right? And so then the FBI would be looking for the banker, but essentially the FBI did realize that there were some Black people involved, and he felt that they were commissioned by white people, by one of the bankers, but they couldn't prove it.
Everything just added up and was a perfect symphony. Like nothing was added just to be added. Every layer just made sense, even down to when Josie was like, ain't no point tying him up. Like, you're too soft on him. He ain't your uncle.
He got to go.
Right.
Now we putting up with your uncle shit because he's your uncle, but this dude came here to rob you. And to see this any other way is a weakness.
And we not dealing.
We're not right.
We always do what needs to be done. And Josie
put him down.
Be done.
And that's what she did. She put him down. So and Truck is like, what? Damn, But in the end, I thought it was fun. And I said, well, we'll rob one more bank and I'll close out the series.
Okay. So it's only going to be one more book in the series.
It's gonna be one more. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm excited.
So is this a continuation of Truck and Josie, or will we get someone else?
So I really feel like this is a continuation of Truck and Josie, but the person that this book will mostly be about will be Titus, because
Okay.
he's the person who came, and that's how John gets involved. So after all that damn complaining, now John's one of the bank robbers. So I think we can have fun with him, because John is about business. So this will be good. Yeah.
Because I'm sure thinking like, where Titus woman?
Yeah.
What's going
Right.
on?
He definitely giving Rolling Stone right now.
Right. Right.
Oh, I'm excited.
I'm super excited. Can we get any more information about anything else you might be working on?
So right now I've revealed the cover on my gay romance, and that will go live on June 1st on Kindle and paperback. And later on in the year, we should have an Audible up and running, and we're hoping to get full cast.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome. Are you gonna do a box again?
I probably am going to do a box for the gay romance and probably a box for Ignite. I'm waiting for hardcovers, and Alex and I keep trying to manipulate the covers, and the covers are not coming out right. And so we are working on that. And so the minute that the hardcover for Ignite and my gay romance is available, I will be coming and letting you guys know, and you guys can be able to pick it up. And I might even do the boxes early if I can get the cover right. And so some people might get early editions of the hardcover that they may be able to read. So that's where we are.
SYRETTA. Just so you can spell my name correctly.
Does anyone have any questions for Miss Joan before we sign off?
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Well, we thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining Miss Joan. As usual,
we'll be in your text messages.
You know we will.
Okay.
Your storytelling is so magnificent. When I tell you that if I had stories like this to read when I was younger, I'm a total dyslexic, so I really struggle with sitting down, and it takes me forever to truly read a story. But I would have sat down for that. I feel like I would have been able to get my mind focused for what you write, like, because I also struggle with it. I got a lot of issues, y'all. But I really feel like I would have sat down for something like this. To see myself and people that look like me in stories is so life-changing. And I know you know how wonderful it is, but like, it's really wonderful. Like, I want you to know that. Like, it's really, really wonderful. And I appreciate that you put things on audio for those of us that do have troubles with the reading of the physical word, or even have, actual disabilities. There's so many things, and I just appreciate that you take the time to put it on audio for us. Like, thank you.
And I appreciate that. I appreciated Jacoby coming to and doing the Black series, and JD doing this. And the reason is because I have glaucoma, and I too, believe it or not, struggle with concentration. And so and anxiety and depression. So these are all things that I'm constantly working through. And I can appreciate what you're saying, Sarita, about wanting to really enjoy a good book and having to overcome some things in order to get that concentration where you need it to be able to enjoy the story. So bringing the books to Audible was also because of that, because I also have glaucoma. So even like a lot of times, if I'm in a text message thing and too many people are texting at once, I can't read all of that because my eyes can't follow it. And so I try with the with Audible, it allows me to devour more work when I'm not reading, when I'm not working, which is a fun thing for me. And it's also for people who are busy and always on the go. And for me, I try to save the eyes for writing because that's where we are. So I could appreciate all that you said, and I'm going to try my very best to keep bringing the work to Audible as well because I want as many people who otherwise wouldn't be able to see it and those type of things to experience it. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I thank you, Miss Joan, because I'm not a historical fiction reader, like at all. But your stories, your writing, it just captures your soul and just holds you. It's like always puts you in the mindset of watching soap operas, but with Black people, because there's
Right.
always so much going on. There's so many moving pieces. And even though we're not jumping from 1,000 heads like in the Black series, you still know there's still so much going on. It's like you say, certain things happen off page for your mind to figure on and work it out. Like every book, I have to use complicated thinking for Miss Jones. And I love that. It
is difficult thinking.
Thank you. I have to sit on it and figure on it. And I love that. And I thank you because as someone who really doesn't care for, I don't want to say doesn't care for history, but as someone who struggles with history and learning the facts, I do have to go and look up some of the things like, is this Miss Jones writing or is this history? Okay.
Right.
Okay. I am that person who has to go and look it up later because I don't know. I don't have it memorized. I don't remember from school. And most of the things we're learning in your books, we didn't learn in school anyways.
Me either, Nikki. Me either.
So I thank you because you are making me a better Black woman. I feel like I've always been proud to be a Black woman and appreciated my Blackness. But every time I finish one of your books, I just be like,
I feel bold in my Black. Like really
empowered in it. And I love that. And I thank you for that.
Even down to songs that you do or certain outfits, like again, with being dyslexic, I'm a very visual person. So I immediately, because I want to I could see that dress fitting her. So the reason that your writing is so amazing because it is so visual. It can play like a movie.
Oh wow!
Just like
I try for that. I do. I try for
like
that.
General Hospital.
So even if
he's giving Jason Morgan energy,
he's giving Jason. But even for people that are vision impaired, when you hear it, it gives you the exact location. Like, okay, so the dust just flew up right there. And oh my gosh, did truck slam his arm is bleeding? Oh, I see the bone. It's so very visual that it really does elevate and it makes it easy for anyone like to truly understand and be a part of that story. Like I thank you. I can't tell you enough. Anyone that I will get to listen, white, Black, pink, or Asian, I tell them to start with Black. You're gonna love it.
Oh wow.
Anytime someone asks for a book recommendation,
and I will recommend it for life. I have some older white clients that literally can say that they knew somebody who knew somebody that was living like this, or
yes,
it's not that long ago, and you have helped me to realize, because again, I like historical, I like history, but you forget that, baby, that 65 ain't that old.
Right. And you know what? I love that because I also get stories from white people and because I have white friends. It's not, I mean, I don't only have Black friends. And so I have one friend who's 78. You would be surprised some of the things that she has seen coming from a small town. And so and so this is a good experience. It's not to tell a story to make anybody a bad guy. This is just what happened. So when I write, this is my motto: the conditions are real, even if the characters are fiction. That is always my motto. Yeah.
And I do feel like you do well at that.
Yes, it's always so layered and complex. And I think you do a good job of, even when you're like, okay, I know this is the enemy, you give the full picture. Like, that's what I love. Like, the most unbiased writing of something that is so biased. How do you not, you know,
Right.
writing style is so unbiased. Like it's history.
It's history.
Right. And I'm just telling the historical, and you know, my mother tells me a story of an uncle of mine who was murdered in Mississippi. And she's a kid and she's listening to my grandfather get the news over the phone while trying to hold himself up, you know. And so these are the different things that drive my writing. I come from a big family on both sides, and the Black experience it was huge in my family, and so I'm just trying to give it to you, and have fun doing it. I love romance. So although I don't always achieve romance, I wish I did more. But I try to add action, romance, and all of that together, and it I have fun doing it, and I love entertaining people. And I come from an era where there were not a lot of Black books, so it is really a privilege for me to be adding to this landscape, because I come from an era where, you know, you want to read a love story, the story you're reading, and while some of them were really good, they were not representations of me. And so when I look at a lot of the young writers now, the young Black women doing it, I am so incredibly impressed by them. I am so incredibly impressed by the renaissance they have created by independently publishing stories that represent Black life. And so I'm thankful to be old enough to appreciate it and young enough to participate in it.
I love
like
that.
I like that.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
You
we
so
appreciate y'all. We
much.
are so sorry when we set this up. Easter, not on our minds. So we apologize for being here.
And
Yes.
today with us. Thank you, Miss Joan, as usual. Thank you, love. We so adore you and we so appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you guys. And I will be ready for the next time, because I know we going into the fort.
And we can, I was gonna say we can't wait, but that's a lie. I could wait on the fort. That book hurt. That book really
So
hurt.
when y'all get the dates, just let me know and I'll be there. I won't be square.
We appreciate you.
All righty, lady.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.